It's the Morning Marketing Machine, here to grow your e-commerce business with proven marketing strategies and tactics, so you can run your business with machine-like precision. My name is Douglas Levin. Let's dive in. So welcome to the Morning Marketing Machine. So I'm very happy today because I've got a special guest for everyone. This is a friend of mine. What I'll say in terms of Patrick Mvaa is that he's a former engineering advisor turned entrepreneur. He's an Amazon Shopify seller, also owns a marketing agency that helps purpose-driven entrepreneurs grow their business using paid ads, Facebook and Google ads. And he's always looking forward to connecting with other entrepreneurs and talking shop. So welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you, Douglas. I'm happy to be in your show today.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you here. I know we talked quite a few times, and you're always somebody I'm reaching out to whenever I have questions on Facebook, Google, any of that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to have you on. It should help everyone listening here today. So I guess one of the things I want to get started with for people that may not know is like, how did you get started? Kind of like if you can tell us a little bit about your journey to kind of get going here.
Yes. So yes, my name is Patrick, and so I started in in a 9 to 5, just like most of you here.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for a semiconductor company. Then I went on and I worked in oil and gas field until 2015. But I was also doing small things like, so I actually started selling hair when I was in college. Yes. So I sold hair from my backpack. Yeah, so I did that a little bit. But in 2015, that's when I started selling on Amazon and Shopify. And 2018, that's when I started my my small marketing agency. Yeah, so here I am.
So what got you started in terms of kind of starting the agency?
So I started in 2018,
Hmm.
and it started because I was getting a lot of questions around Facebook ads and stuff like that, and you know I saw a need in a space, especially for local businesses. So I work more with local businesses, because I've been doing Facebook ads for myself for a while. So that's how I learned Facebook ads and Google ads. Yes.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I know I'm always reaching out to you whenever I have questions. Uh, and I know like one of the things that this is an issue that a lot of people, like I know my audience and just people in general have is the idea of Facebook ads and all of the mistakes that they're making. So I know one of the things that you've been able to help out with, and you're saying there's a lot of mistakes that people make. So can you kind of go into a little bit of like what some of those mistakes are that people have with Facebook ads?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of mistakes that people make. I'll go over a few of them today. So one of them is people do not advertise to their email list. And that is one mistake because, someone has already given you their email, and most likely maybe you collected that email from Facebook, so obviously they're already hanging on Facebook, but we want you to send an email, obviously, but you need to remember, deliverability on emails is not as high, So you still need to advertise to where those people hang out a lot, which is already Facebook. So that's one thing that, you need to do. Another thing is you need to have a congruency. Okay. So, people who have given you their emails, they already know you. They're somewhat warm to you. So the message that you're going to send to them or you're going to display to them on Facebook is going to be different from the message that you're going to display to your cold audience, people who do not know you or do not know your brand. So, you need a congruent message. And even when you take them out of Facebook and they get to your website, the message will look different. Okay, so a message for warm audience when they land to your landing page will be completely different from the message of cold audience. They're going to have a different landing page, and that's when you start seeing conversions. Another mistake people make is when they're doing targeting for their cold audiences, they do a lot of layering. Now, will it work? Yes, it might work, but the problem is you won't be able to measure it. So you don't know actually what works. You're just seeing results, but you can't measure those results because you have 6, 7 layers of interests, So you don't know what interest is working. Is it, if you're in a health space, is it Whole Foods audience? Is it Lululemon audience? Is it yoga mat audience? So you really don't know. So you kind of need to, basically split test these different audiences. And another mistake is we always want people to build custom audiences, but when you're building those custom audiences, you kind of need to understand the intent of people, especially when, if let's say they landed to your website, you need to understand where did they land. Did they land on your about page, and how much time they spent on that page, or did they land on your product page, and how much time they spent on the product page. Then build your custom audiences accordingly. And that's when you really get high intent audiences. So let's say someone has landed on, so let's say you are selling cigar humidors, and it's mahogany cigar humidor. Okay. So if I land on that page and I've spent more than 25%, most likely I'm very interested, So you as a marketer, when you're building the custom audiences, for let's say website visitors, Facebook gives you an ability to say, okay, I need an audience that spent this much time on this page. So when you retarget me, your message will be more powerful compared to, if I just landed on an about page for 5% of the time and left, and you're still trying to convert me, it's gonna be difficult. So those are type of things that, I see being very prevalent. You see, you hear, but I'm doing all this, retargeting. I'm retargeting my, my custom audiences, but they're not converting. Yeah, it's because, yes, you're targeting people who spent less than 5 seconds on your website. They don't know anything about your brand. So that's, those are type of mistakes that we're seeing a lot.
So there's a lot there in terms of what you're talking about. So let's kind of like unpack this a little bit more here. So the way I obviously, like I've kind of heard it in terms of like when you're getting them to buy, it's a lot easier obviously to sell to warm traffic, hot traffic, people that are on your list already. But I guess for the sake of this, if we're looking at it like the way you're talking about it, say cold traffic first, and you're looking at it sounds like obviously from what you're saying, it's all data driven, right? You want to be able to measure everything because you can only ever make changes like that you can really focus on in terms of changes from the data. But so if you're looking at, say you were talking about like layering too many audiences, and you're talking about cold traffic specifically, like how would you go about, say it's someone new and they're getting started, like what kind of process would you recommend for them in terms of like one audience at a time when you're going, say, cold traffic, and then like kind of looking at how that data would come up in terms of analyzing it?
Yeah. So, what I So if you are starting up, you do not have any audience or anything,
Mhm.
and you're going after cold audience, what I suggest is, have test different type of ads, test different ads, test different creatives, okay? And just start with simple video ads, engagement ads. See how much people are responding to your creatives, to your messaging. Then start building those custom audiences off that. So you start with video views, okay, and one or two audiences per ad, then start building your funnel. So now you've introduced them the top of the funnel, they kind of know your brand, then bring them to to the to where now they are aware of you and aware of their problems and the problems that your brand solves. So that's how I'll suggest anyone starting to go about it. And another, while we're at it, don't do anything with CBO when you're testing,
Uh-huh.
because that is the quickest way to lose your money and amplify anything that is bad with your ads. So skip CBO. Yeah.
So do you recommend like a dynamic creative then, or what do you usually recommend?
So starting up, I do not recommend dynamic creatives.
Mm-hmm.
Just do just the regular stuff. Maybe you can start with 4 ads, different ad sets, you
Mm-hmm.
know that way. But don't go with anything dynamic at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, and for anyone listening, CBO is just campaign budget optimization. So you'll see it on Facebook where you can, I think it's at the campaign level, right? Obviously,
Yes.
campaign budget optimization, where you can allow Facebook to designate
Yeah.
what's going to each ad set.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, CBO is meant for something that works. So once you have your data back, you know what is working, then go with CBO, because that's like, it's a rocket ship. Yeah. But when you are testing, don't do CBO. Yeah.
And another thing you were talking about, obviously, was like the different types of basically language that you're going to talk to people depending on how aware they are. Like I know that we both know Brian, and I'm sure it's been talked about it. He got it. Was it Eugene Schwartz? I can't remember where the idea of states of awareness came from, and that's kind of what you're alluding to in terms of you have to talk to people differently, whether it's a cold audience that they've never heard from you, versus someone who's had 5 touch points with you or something where you can talk to them a different way. So how many different kind of states of awareness do you put in ads? Like say, if you're targeting cold audience versus you're talking about people that have landed on say your product pages or spent like 25% or however long it is for your video ads, like how many different kind of creatives and audiences in terms of say cold to warm do you usually try and work on in different types of language?
So, when we look at the different levels of awareness, you have people who know about your brand, those who do not know anything about your brand, and you know they don't know if they have the problem and if you are solving that problem. So for anyone, so when I'm dealing with cold audiences, it's more about introducing my brand, and then I'm gonna go touch about, I'm gonna agitate the problem. Eventually then I'm gonna introduce, on my retargeting ad, so I'm gonna introduce the solution. But if I'm dealing with warm audience, most of the time it's just agitating the problem, then remind them of the solution that is available for them and make them take action. But with cold audience, it's a journey. We don't go and try to convert them. It's more educational stuff, and handshakes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know one of the things that we've tried a lot that seems to work in terms of the cold audience. Like, obviously, you're working on some type of lead magnet, but you have to be very general with it. You have to assume you're going to have a longer nurture sequence to kind of get them warmed up to you, right? Because it's like, don't expect cold audiences to converge.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Not at all.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I know, I think we've talked about this, but I know like a lot of people have talked about it as well. Like when you're looking at your numbers, you're looking at your profitability too. Is like it's the whole thing of trying to understand, like if you're doing say 5 different campaigns to get them from cold to a buyer, like you have to understand your profitability. Like when you're looking at that data, like over time, like okay, how much does it take me for a cold audience, and how much ads wise is it going to take them to go through your funnel to eventually buy? Because if you're just looking at it from, oh, I got this warm traffic to buy at a ROAS of 4, this is
Yeah.
awesome. But then
Yeah.
if your cold audience is like 0.3 or something, and
Yeah.
and then it ends up being not profitable over time, then it's not going to work out, right?
Yes, and with cold audience, really, you are lucky if you're gonna, you're looking to at least maybe break even, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but really the money will be made on your nature sequence, on your upsells eventually. But at the beginning, you're gonna have to, you're gonna have some lost leaders and everything with the cold audiences. Yeah, and that's why sometimes it's important to segment, your audiences so you can actually measure things,
Mm-hmm.
and do not let those low ROAS or the cold audiences really distract you, because you're in for a long game, and eventually maybe maybe you're gonna sell them bundles. You're gonna your emails, if you have your emails really dialed in, those emails eventually will convert and stuff like that. Yeah. So when you're looking your numbers, be objective.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's always really difficult for us, right? Like, because it's easier, I think, for like an agency or for somebody else who's not um, uh, they're not in it, right?
Yeah.
They're helping you out, but if you're doing it yourself as a business owner, a lot of times you're looking at things emotionally, right? So you got to
Yes.
detach
Yes.
yourself as much as possible. Just look at
Yeah.
the data and try and be as emotionless as possible. Right?
Exactly. And like I play in both fields, so I know. I know the struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing you were talking about a little bit earlier when we were talking about kind of those mistakes was obviously that the idea of talking to your list, and this gets back to the idea of if you're a lot of the people that you're going to be talking to here today are like they're Amazon sellers, and they're not really sure how to like start collecting emails, like any of those kinds of parts of it, or if they're like looking to start building in their own list and obviously make use of some of the points you were talking about. So like how can Amazon sellers like start to collect like actual emails from like Amazon buyers, like whether it's before, during, or after a launch?
Yeah. So what I suggest is always have some kind of a campaign going, collecting email list, and there's a really good tool that actually kind of lets you collect emails. You know, it's called social links.
Mm-hmm.
Type of email. So you can collect emails. Let's say you let someone log in using their Facebook profile, or use their Gmail, or use their Amazon email. So what you need to, one of the things that you need to do is, run lead gen type of campaigns, to collect emails, and they do not have to be like, huge campaigns, but, keep them going, build your customer list. And this tool that I recommend is called boost.link. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but what you need to do when you create your landing page, let only use the option to collect Amazon email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this has different, this is important because with Amazon, when you're sending their traffic, especially if you're trying to rank your product, you want people who have made purchases on Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're ranking your product, so it's important you know that, okay, these people actually shop on Amazon,
Right.
you know. So Facebook lead gen type of campaigns, that's important. Or you can use, I know you are the ManyChat guy, so you can use ManyChat or emails, but you have to keep, whether you are launching or not, keep building your email list.
Yeah. That's one thing I always talk about too. Like, obviously, like you, I do a lot with Amazon still, but I'm always of the idea of I'm going to use it for the amazing channel it is, but I'm not going to rely on it. So,
Yeah.
what can I do whenever I'm sending traffic to Amazon so I can make them my customer, right? So, yeah, the sale may go through on Amazon, and it's a great platform. But if the purpose is obviously to rank, I'm not just going to have it be Amazon's customer. I'm going to look at it like, how can I get them, whether it's ManyChat, email, ideally both, ideally SMS as well, so I can reach out to them and they're my customer, right?
Yeah.
And I can do whatever I want with them.
Exactly.
So let them know again the link. Obviously, I know you were saying it's not an affiliate link, but I know they're going to want to get on.
Yeah, it's called boost.link.
Mm.
Yeah. And maybe you can have in the show notes after the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this. So I'm as soon as this is over, I'm going to try it myself.
Oh yes. It's a neat tool. So you're actually getting Amazon emails. Because Amazon won't give you that information.
No.
Yeah.
They're making it even worse right now, right? Because you can't even see at this point the shipping addresses anymore.
No, you don't.
So obviously one of the things, like, we talked for a while now about Facebook ads, and obviously the Google guy as well. So like, is the advertising side like the part of the business that you love the most then, or?
Yes. Working with the data and everything. So that's like kind of my jam. Yeah. I enjoy that part.
So then what would you say, I guess, if we're looking at it from the other perspective, then what's the part of the business that you love the least?
It's something that, I have to do it, but dealing with customer service, because you're dealing with so many personalities, that is difficult. That is part of the business that I do not enjoy, but I know it's a fundamental to my success. So it has to get done. Yeah.
Have you been trying to figure out a way to outsource it, or you're like, this is something that's so important, I got to keep doing it?
I feel like it's something that I have to have a finger on the pulse. Like I have to, I have to be up to date to it, because it's so important. It can make you or break you. So, yeah. But eventually, outsourcing is important. Yeah.
I think like that's something that I know a lot of people will outsource it to a VA to do, just because it's easy in a lot of ways, in terms of, I got a process down and I can just have VA do it. But I'm kind of the mind that, somewhat along with what you're thinking too, like, if you can hire somebody in-house eventually, where like they've got more invested in it, they hopefully have some of your brand culture in terms of like how you operate. They know they're more of an extension of you and your like what you're looking for, and as a brand and as a company culture, then I think it could work more. But like a VA, a lot of times it's going to be, they're not, like, as much as you'd like it to, they're just not going to care as much.
Yes, they're just they're just doing the task. But sometimes, for me, in those customer questions that I get, I'm also getting a feedback on how we are doing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the big thing too. I mean, like, when you're talking, like, you have access to these customers, and I know, like, Brian talks about it, we hear about it all the time. That's, in a lot of ways, can be your advantage over everybody else.
Yeah.
Like okay, yeah, if they had a bad experience, you want to know about it. You want to do what
Exactly.
you can, because if you're competing with like the Nikes and the Apples of the world, they're obviously usually not to that extent, but
Yeah.
you're looking at whoever the category kings are, and this is your advantage is that you care, and that okay, I don't have $1 million a day in advertising budget potentially, but I can give them great customer service, and this is a huge part of that, right?
Yeah.
Like what can I do to make their experience amazing, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so with that being said, I guess what's your most important thing that you're working on right now?
So, um, especially on the agency side, is just building relationships.
Hmm.
You know, um, that is has to be ongoing, because the way I bring clients to the agency is a bit different. I don't bring a lot of people to the agency, so it's really relationship based type of work.
Hmm.
You know, so that is something that I'm doing every day. Yeah, and for my e-commerce stuff, it's just building the list and um, optimizing my product pages and stuff like that, having doing A/B testing and all type of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, yeah, and it sounds like obviously that's when you're looking at the relationship part, that's obviously what drives revenue, right?
Yes.
So I mean, it makes sense in terms of, well, yeah, you got to focus on what those money making activities sometimes do,
Yeah.
um, and obviously what you're talking about in terms of the optimization parts of it with the data, and that's going to lead to hopefully more profitable revenue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing that I'm always interested in knowing from people is like their morning routines. Do you have one? Like, what is it? Like what kind of gets you going every morning?
So I do.
Yeah.
Um, my morning starts with a little bit, like 5-10 minutes of meditation.
Hmm.
And it's not like something huge, just me just closing my eyes and let myself go. Then a little bit of gratitude after that. And um, I wake up and usually start with some cold water. you know if my kids are not awake, I get a morning walk, you and come back. And if they're awake, usually I give them breakfast, and I start work. Yeah, that's my morning routine is very simple. Yeah, but it kind of sets the stage, trying to have a more calm morning.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I notice once if my morning is chaotic, it's almost like the whole day is gonna be chaotic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what I liked about what you said too, you were talking about obviously like being grateful and meditation parts of it. I mean,
Mm.
that seems like to me the way I look at it is that helps in terms of obviously your mindset and looking at things from like that kind of positive mindset of how you're going to attack your day, like
Mm.
taking time. It the way it kind of looked at me was like you're taking time, you're like trying to look at, like, since you're doing it in the morning, like with the meditation, with being grateful and the other aspects you were just talking about, that's setting the stage for hopefully a positive productive day, is
Yeah.
it kind of looks like to me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like especially we're in the people business. So, you're during the days, there's so many personalities come in play. And so if you don't have that calm setup early on, it can be really you might end up with a very interesting day. Yeah.
So that kind of leads me back to like something that I know I've dealt with in the past. It's been a struggle
Mm.
for me, and I think it's been a struggle for a lot of business owners as well, as the idea that at some point you're gonna have some kind of obstacle you're trying to overcome, and it just doesn't seem to work for whatever reason, or you're in a funk for whatever reason, right? I
Mm.
know that's been happening to me in the past. I'm sure it's something that I'm going to continue to deal with like
Mm.
for the rest of your life, it's always going to be something you struggle with. So like
Yeah.
for you, like when you've been in that situation, whether it's an obstacle you're trying to overcome or you're in a funk for whatever reason, what have you tried, and what seems to work best for you to kind of help get over those situations?
Yeah. So, in terms of business, as entrepreneurs, it's almost like we are wired in a way that, we anticipate something to go wrong, you know. Yeah. So every time some, goes wrong, I know there is a solution. Either I have a solution or I can reach out to Douglas, I can reach out to Brian, I can reach out to someone and get a solution. But, um, a little bit time, like, few minutes of reflection, kind of set me in a good route. So that can be, a walk, or I can just if let's say I'm on a funk and I don't want to do anything, usually I'm gonna go outside and force myself to do something, either put my garage together,
Mhm.
or just cut grass, and when I'm done, I have a solution or at least a clear path. You know.
Mhm.
So you know, um, yeah, usually it's either actually it's so interesting because most people they'll think like, oh, don't do anything, but actually it's about, I feel like if I do something, either I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna cut grass or something like that, I'm gonna come up with a solution, really. And at the end of the day, if you look, things just work out fine. you know Eventually things work out fine, and we all have this historical, if you look back, I mean, you've gone through so many obstacles, and it's not like anything really broke you. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that gets back to the idea of like negative versus positive mindset sometimes. Like
Mm,
I hear it all the time, like the Henry Ford quote, right? If you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right. Like
yeah.
um, like the people, if you look at like the entrepreneurs that are looking at it from the mindset, like you were just talking about, well, yeah, I've got this struggle to get over, but I've done it before. I can do it again. Okay, it's just
Yeah.
a stumbling block. Then they'll get over it. But if you look
Yeah.
at it from the perspective of, honestly, I would say 90 to 95% of the world out there, uh, oh, this is terrible. I just can't win, right? It's
Yeah.
not going to work out. Well, then, yeah, it's not going to work out.
It
Right?
won't. It
Yeah.
won't. Yeah. Yeah. It's just having that mentality of, I've gone through this, you know, and I was able to get over it, and also the ability to say, I'm gonna figure this out.
Mhm.
I just need, a few minutes or a day or two, and I'll figure this out. Whether myself or with the help of someone else in my circle of friends,
Mhm.
we're gonna get this done. So that's a mindset that I go with.
Yeah, yeah, and I love what you were talking about too. Like, I, I try and think of different ways too, because it happens to me in terms of like I just can't get over whatever it is that's that stumbling block, or
Mm.
I have days where like I just feel like I'm not making the progress that I would like for whatever reason, right? And I like what you were saying in terms of like getting away from it sometimes and trying to focus sometimes on other things. Like I've read numerous books where they talk about that idea. Like, okay, it's always going to be in the back of your head, and you're working on it somehow. It's like it's
Yeah.
subconscious. But if you can take time away, whether you're like you're saying, go on a walk, exercise. I've heard a lot from other people too.
Mm.
Like you were talking about working on other projects. Like sometimes I'll try and immerse myself, like the work life balance. Where like, okay, well, I just can't work on something right now, but what can I do to spend time with family or something, where
Yeah.
like it's going to start working in the back of your head, and then before you know it, if as long as you're not looking at it from a negative perspective, like that solution presents itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So So, obviously, we've talked a little bit about like whether it's off air or just in general about different books as well. Like, so what book are you currently reading?
So right now I'm reading One Thing by
Oh,
Gary Keller.
yeah,
It's one book that I've always been, you know, wanting to read, and finally, I've started reading it, and yeah, that's what is in uh, my desk. Yeah,
yeah. So how have you identified your most important thing yet?
I have,
Uh,
I have. So in terms of, I mean, okay, so we are doing business, and one of the thing is when you're in a business is generating leads and sales.
hmm.
Really, that's it. That's one of the biggest thing. Then of course you have different tasks and those things, your customer service, fulfillment, and all other things. But you just need to generate leads, sales.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's so far that's a main takeaway, that I've been able to um you know to identify.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's kind of something I know. I read a book recently called Essentialism, which in a lot of ways is very similar. There was a lot of comparisons between the one thing and essentialism, like that idea that no, is it what does Gary say in the book? The one thing that by doing it, such or whatever, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary.
Yeah.
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 So I mean, it's a great idea. I've heard it like I think everywhere lately. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Because, um, in a space that we are, especially online, there's so many things that you hear people, do. Okay. So, like, people will tell you, oh, you need to be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok. But then when you peel back all those layers and look like, okay, where am I getting the most of my results? Usually it's one or two platforms maximum. So that's, some of the things that, it kind of brings, the book is bringing a lot of awareness in myself, like how I go about my day and everything like that, around my business. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And what would you say like the best book that you read in the last 6 months?
Ooh. Um, this is challenging because I've read Big Leaps by Gay Hendricks. I've read Mindset. I've read Man's Search for Meaning. I've read uh, 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 Blue Ocean Strategy. I've read Influence, but I come back to Mindset.
Mhm.
You know, by Carol Dweck.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, I think is one of the best books out there.
Mhm.
You know, because if your mindset is right, you know, I mean, you can overcome almost anything.
Mhm.
you know, so yeah, and actually, I have it here. This is the book I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I mean, if anyone wants, to get their mindset, you know, right, they should read this book.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it when I read it. Like that was one of the I think I read it a couple months ago, and
Mm,
like I love that idea. It's a really simple concept, but like that like fixed versus growth mindset. I mean, like for people that don't haven't read it, I mean, it's basically the idea of are you looking at things from a perspective of I'm smart, I'm talented, um, and then there's like labels where it's all about basically the result and
mm,
uh, I'm only a success if I achieve this result, versus the growth mindset of, am I doing everything I can to grow?
Yeah.
What can I take from this and learn and apply so that I can keep growing, whether it's my business or my personal life or anything that you're trying to do. And then as a byproduct of that, you'll probably have what people think of as success. But it's really about that kind of growth strategy. Like I love how she lays it out. It's a really simple concept.
It
But
is.
but like you kind of hear all these examples about like fiction versus growth, and like the people that are really successful are all kind of in that growth mindset.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a good book. I recommend to most of my friends, that they should pick up this book and read. And you know, in whatever you are doing, whether you are an entrepreneur, you are a teacher, you are a plumber, this book is for everybody, really. If you're a student, you need this book, especially when you're a student. Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of transitioning a little bit here. I know one of the things that I think we've talked about a little bit, and with the virus kind of going on, everyone's had to change in terms of their family life. But it's kind of like, I know one of the things I struggle with, I've kind of talked about it recently too, is like the work-life balance, and like kind of your vision and other things on those lines. So like, to you, I guess, what is a work-life balance?
So for me, okay, so I'm a little bit conflicted with work-life balance. I believe in segregation of duties. Okay, so I know. So the balance for me looks like being able to work, 9 to 5, work on whatever that I'm working on, and after that have time for family. So it's not necessarily in the middle, but in extremes. So one extreme, is business, and another extreme is life.
Right.
Because I believe if we bring it to the middle, nothing really happens here in the middle. It's gonna be just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Yeah. So that's how work-life balance for me looks like. But I mean, if just for everyday life is, during the day is business, and in the evenings is family.
Yeah. You're not the first person I've heard that from too. I think it's something I've tried to do like more recently too. Like the idea of, and I like what you're kind of saying in terms of, you can't kind of like I can't remember what the saying is, but like if you're trying to be all things to all people, you're gonna be like nothing to everybody or whatever.
Yes.
So that's kind of how, like, the way I kind of look at what you're saying. Like all right, if you're gonna be working on the business, then you need to be working on the business, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like being present with whatever it is you're focusing on.
Yeah.
I think of what counterbalance. I think it's kind of what I've heard a lot for that. Like, all right, if I'm going to be on the business, I'm spending all of my time on the business. But then when I am focusing on family, I'm spending all of my time focusing on family. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
that's how, I mean, that's how I look at it, really. It's just two extremes and that's it. Yeah.
So when you're trying to relax, like is there anything that you try and do to kind of relax and have fun?
Well, so before, kids used to be, maybe go out with friends and stuff like that. But now with kids, it's more about, being the clown for them. It's basically entertaining them, So, but, for my down times, I like to do very goofy things, I might get myself lost in fail videos on YouTube and just laughing my lungs out. Yeah, because laughing to me is a very important part of my, of life.
Mm.
So, you know, I might find myself, looking at people doing crazy stunts and
Mm.
failing, and I just get to laugh. And sometimes, a good book is nice. Podcasts, I listen to podcasts. Yeah, yeah. That's how I kind of like, relax,
Mm.
just shut down the business part and be goofy. Yeah.
Well, and it's something that I know, like a lot of business owners, they don't take time for like the laughter or the fun, right? Um,
Yeah, and laughter really, really is. I mean, to me, it's a good stress reliever. I don't think you can beat laughter. Yeah,
and I would think too. I mean, it's going to help you when we're talking a little earlier about like getting out of a funk or obstacles. I mean that's another way, right? Like trying to think about something that's going to make you like have fun or anything like that.
exactly,
It's going to help your mind kind of get in a better state.
exactly. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so what are some of the favorite podcasts then?
So I like Mixage. Yeah, I like the way the host's name is Andrew. I like how he interviews people.
Mhm.
It's almost like he's grilling them, and he really knows how to get those small details that, people maybe knowingly or unknowingly holding on to, and he knows how to kind of extract those. Um, I like Matt Butner has a podcast called Science of Success.
Mhm.
So he mixes brain science, business, mindset type of stuff, on his podcast. So I enjoy that. Um, I enjoy Founder podcast. Yeah, and of course Pat Flynn. I've been listening to him for a while. I like his style of interviewing, and I think he almost like he does like the NPR type of uh, setup, So I kind of like enjoy that, you know. Yeah, so those are like the podcasts that I really listen to. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think so. I can't remember where I got it from, but he was talking specifically about like when he's talking to guests, and obviously we were talking a little bit earlier about when you were talking about mindset, growth versus fixed,
Mm.
and the idea of success being kind of the fixed part. But
Yeah.
I know everyone talks about it, so it's a question I usually want to ask people. So like, what is your definition of success?
So to me, it is it's just the small wins,
Mhm.
accumulation of small wins. So like I didn't know. Okay, so at the beginning, I didn't know how to run Facebook ads, and I learned how to run Facebook ads. So that success to me. So like just the continuous learning process, that's success to me, whether in business or in life,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, to always be learning and kind of figuring out next steps, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, sometimes we get sucked into this idea of success has to be this gigantic, event, like, but it can just be a collection of so many small events, that eventually, build up into something big.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's an awesome attitude. Because if you're looking at it from that big, like, oh, it's got to be this big thing, you're never going to get there. Like, right?
No. And you're gonna be stressed out every day.
So
Yeah.
we got
You're
enough to
gonna
worry
be
about, right? As business owners, we don't need to add our own stress to it.
yeah. We don't need all that.
But so,
Yeah.
as we're heading down the home stretch here, I wanted to
Mm.
thank you, Patrick, so much for coming on and sharing some of your story and all your expert insight. So it was great, so great talking to you. And I wanted to kind of say as well as like, so how can our listeners kind of find out more about what it is that you do and anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for having me, and I hope I was able to share some strategies with your audience. So yeah, I mean, if you want to learn more about what I'm up to, I'm always on Facebook. I work on, it's like Douglas knows, like, the quickest way to reach me is, through Facebook Messenger. So, anyone that, wants to connect, you know, you can, reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn. When you search my last name, that will be the only one. And that will be Emma's mother, V as Victor, A. So Facebook and LinkedIn, those are the best places to reach me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have that in the show notes as well, just because I know that no one's going to be able to pronounce it right. I know that I'm always like, I want to make sure I don't butcher it.
I know.
So thank you so much, Patrick. Like as I was saying, he's a wealth of knowledge. Like regardless of where you're at, like I would say, reach out to him, follow him. Like obviously, even if it's not something you're looking at right now, he's somebody you want to pay attention to. So thank you so much for coming on, Patrick. And so that's it for today. So talk to you guys next time on Morning Marketing Machine. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.